Hello, everybody. This morning, actually, I want to say, I had a PowerPoint, okay, and Allison stole it, and Norm stole it. So I see Shaheen getting very nervous. I'm going to just skip that, and I'm just going to reflect, sort of TED style. We'll see how this goes. I was born in a small town in Texas. This morning, I was walking ankle deep in rainy floodwater through what I'm told is one of the largest slums in the world. Kids, I'm a bit of a freak show, right? And there's just kids everywhere touching me and practicing their English. And I found myself thinking, how did I get here? And how is it that, honestly, there's nowhere else in the world I want to be right now, except for my own kids and family and all of that. Like, how did this happen? And I decided, just reflecting after I threw away the PowerPoint, that I'm going to just talk for a second about those. Now, when you ask how you got somewhere, there could be many answers, right? Like, is it that my own mother, who was teaching second grade in a very small town in Texas, was fired because she got pregnant with me, and it was unacceptable to be pregnant and a teacher in small town Texas? And my entire career is just some kind of Freudian experiment to try to make up for the guilt that I felt in utero about being pregnant. Maybe that's it. There's another story, I'm sure, about Juan Orozco, one of my kids when I taught in the Rio Grande Valley, in some of the poorest communities in the United States, who went on and studied in Oxford, went on and studied in China. He now works for the National Poverty Law Center in the United States, and I'm profoundly proud of the success he's had. And he taught me the potential that lives in kids in places that many people don't think have potential. Or is it another kid, Reyes, who did not pass a state exam that I was responsible for teaching and who never came to school again? I never saw him after that day. I don't know where he is. We had what I thought was a good, close relationship, but I failed him. All of those are possible stories to kind of explain how I end up where I was today. But there's another one that just, when I think back on the wonderful experience I've had of studying dramatically effective transformational teachers. A day that really, when Allison was saying, like, do you believe? I'd like to tell you a story about the day when I think I really began to believe, right? I had come back to Teach for America working as Vice President for Training and Support. And the idea was we need to learn from our most effective teachers. And I'd heard this story of a teacher in Houston. Her name's Sarah Cotner. I want to just take a moment to pay homage to Sarah Cotner in Houston. Here's what we knew. Sarah is teaching in the 5th Ward in Houston, one of the very poor areas of a difficult urban setting. All of her children are on free and reduced lunch. In the United States, that's a sign that their family is below a certain poverty line. All of her children are learning English as a second language. I don't know if this is exactly, virtually all of her children their parents had not gone to college. I think if you walk up to someone on the street and said, here's the demographics of these kids, most people would say, 5th grade, how are they doing? Well, they're 3 or 4 years behind in 5th grade. They're reading like 1st graders. Say they're lost cause, right? But here's what we saw. We were getting data back on how kids were doing, and Sarah's students were outperforming the kids over in Spring Branch, Houston. I know you all don't know the geography. Imagine like really rich white people, okay, whose kids are going to school, and Sarah's kids were beating them. Now, you say, what's going on there? And I got to go visit this classroom. And I go into this classroom. I've got my notepad. I'm taking notes. First thing, I walk in, and first thing that's kind of neat is no one notices I walk in the room. They're going. Second thing I noticed is it's like someone's holding down fast forward on their remote. And the teacher, the kids, they're all just like, I mean, they're going, right? In high speed. Then this amazing moment happens where the principal comes over to the announcement and said, Miss Kottner, could you please send, I don't remember the kid's name, Johnny to the office? And I watched as Johnny's friends leaned into him and said, oh man, hurry back. We're so sorry, we'll tell you what you missed. I thought, wow, you know, people would not believe what I just saw, right? People do not believe that kids could be that way. And then, again, in my wife's absence, I will say this might be the best moment of my life. I crouched down next to this fifth grade. They get to guided practice, and the kids are working, and there's a fifth grade girl, and she's working on her stuff, you know, and I'm trying not to be intimidating, and I crouch down, and I just say, you know, can you tell me a little bit about what you're working on? And she says, can you ask me later? I'm kind of busy. Oh my gosh. I went to my small hometown in Texas and drove my mother, who works in a college of education after she stopped teaching, to see this classroom. I became obsessed with showing people that these classrooms really do exist. And we began to study these teachers whose kids are showing up on a path to dropping out, on a path certainly not to have the options that I want my children to have in life. And yet, because of these teachers' interventions, they get on a different path in life. This is actually happening all over the place. And when we study these teachers, what we see is really exciting. They are all doing similar things to each other that are actually very different from what many moderately effective teachers are doing. And so this whole kind of teaching as leadership thing is the ongoing cycle of learning from those teachers. I want to just very quickly get to that substance. What we see, like in Sarah's classroom, I can give dozens of examples. First, at the beginning of the year, these teachers are saying, I am going to change my kids' lives. They will be on a different path. And what that's going to mean is we're going to do this well in this assessments, or my kids are going to learn so much, we're going to develop and grow personally so much that they're going to be competitive to these good schools. They look down the road in front of their kids and say, this is how we're going to change their life. Think about how that's different from conventional teaching paradigms, right? Often conventional teaching paradigms are, I'm going to expose my kids to learning. Right? Or I am going to become a master teacher at certain skills. You know, these teachers, they define their role as saying, I am the leader who is going to put my kids on a different path, and that changes everything. It changes how they work. The second pattern we see is investment. These teachers, and this is another moment that I owe Sarah. You know, poor Sarah, I grab her and say, oh my gosh, we've got to study you. We have to know what you're doing. I need everything. I want your lesson plans. I want to know what courses you took at our institute. I want your emails home to mom. All of it, because we've got to understand where this is coming from. And she says, I'll give you all that stuff, or I could just tell you. Great, just tell me. And then I'm not sure if this is true. I remember her poking me in the chest, but she said, you teach for America, people. You keep telling me I've got to get classroom management right, and you're right. That's important. And then you keep giving me instructional strategies and methods, and you're right. That's all important. But let me tell you something. My kids walked in this room having learned from their experiences that there are two kinds of kids in the world. There are smart kids over there, and there are dumb kids in this classroom. And that no amount of work that they could do could change that. That's how they see themselves, and that's how they see the world. So when you come in here today and you watch my classroom, what you're not seeing is I have spent months changing the way my kids think about themselves. I've spent months getting them to understand that they can and want to succeed, and they now believe that hard work actually makes them smarter. And it does, and that has changed everything. Right, this is a moment of enlightenment for me. Certainly not new ideas, like lots of experts talk about motivational theory and how important it is, but in our context, where our kids are far behind, where they have had experiences where they've tried and failed, where they've had such a hard time, this is where it starts. We have to work on how they think about themselves and their confidence to work hard, to fail, to work hard, to fail, to work hard and succeed so that they know, yes, it is worth it. Yes, you can work hard and become smarter. those are two of the patterns we see. I'm not going to go through all of these, but we see differences in how these teachers plan. We see differences in how these teachers implement in the classroom. We see differences in how they learn. We see differences in, once again, how they define their role in doing just whatever it takes. We never hear from a Sarah Cotner, well, that's not my job. What we hear is, if Johnny gets low blood sugar at 10 a.m. and that interrupts learning, I need to have an apple in my drawer and I'm going to figure out a way to do it. I am whatever it takes to get there. Some of you know, we have been trying to codify this knowledge from these teachers. It's available in different places. I really encourage you, if you haven't been, to teachingisleadership.org, where we collect the videos and we kind of map out how these teachers work to do that and to contribute. The second question I had is, the first was, how did I get here? And that story is part of it. The second question was, why do I want to be here? Why does this feel so right? And I think it's because we're talking a lot about problems and big solutions. And I just so deeply believe, one, that we can do this. And the solutions start with the relationship between a teacher and students. It starts in the classroom. I absolutely agree that we need great systems. I agree we need technology, we need curriculum, we need lots and lots of things. At the heart of this is what we learned from our teachers, which is that it's about the relationship with the students and committing to changing kids' lives, and that has to be the most important thing. And we can only succeed if our systems are only built to support that idea. We can only succeed if the curriculum is built to support that idea. We will not solve this. I love that silver bullet image up there. We will not solve this with any quick fixes, right? So, I guess, why am I here? How did I get here? All of that, I guess it comes down to the fifth grader, right? There are so many distractions in our work. There are so many ways we could put our energy. We have to keep our eye on the prize, which is the relationship between teachers and students to change lives. And to everything else, let's just say, ask me later, I'm kind of busy. Thank you.